Adam Smith, head of Sky Sports Boxing Development. Just first of all, before we get onto the boxing stuff, just tell us how isolation life or lockdown life is treating you thus far.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? Everybody getting used to a very different way of living and existing, really, for the coming weeks, possibly months. Who knows? I've always been an avid follower of news. I started in news before I went into sports, so I've literally got Sky News on the entire day. I'm sort of watching it on the hour, every hour. It's a sort of, I guess we just want to know as much as we can know every day and see what the government's saying. The key is obviously, as everybody is saying, stay safe, stay at home, keep away from people, which is so the opposite to what so many of us in boxing love. We love that community spirit. We love the social butterflying around weigh-ins and press conferences and events, and that's really hard. But we've got to live under this curfew. We've got to live under these rules, and the only thing that's of any importance really is at the moment is health, and that's what the NHS are doing a phenomenal job with, and the amount of people who've volunteered for the NHS, the amount of people who volunteered to do other things. I just think that's terrific. And I think, if we're going to learn anything through this very, very difficult process, it's that, we've got to maybe reevaluate sort of priorities and be nice to people, because I love loving the stories of sort of community spirits and the feeling of, people going to help the elderly with their shopping and stuff like that. I think it's fantastic. And, I've got my mum's on her own, and, my dad and stepmom are obviously in isolation, my in-laws, and just to make sure that they're getting what they need, and using these devices, Skype, Zoom, anything, house party, anything, we're learning to get on these group chats and sort of and have a virtual communication and virtual hugs as opposed to proper ones. So it's difficult, and the kids, I've got 3 kids at home. We're all, obviously everyone's being homeschooled, and they're at different stages. One's on Easter holidays, the other 2 aren't, and everyone's just got to try and muck in, and we've got to have some sort of a schedule and try and get through this. But it's difficult, and obviously as a business, Sky is it's changing daily. There's things evolving. Many parts of the business, the Sky News, obviously a key point. The broadband, the mobile, the movies, the communication, entertainment part is huge. Sport obviously is off the table at the moment and for the foreseeable future. So it's filling 11 channels, it's keeping Sky Sports News on air, it's doing all this, trying to do what we can for the customers, freezing subscriptions and doing what we can. It's everybody mucking in, and I put my name down on the list for Sky News. So at some point they may call me and bring me onto their team, which I'd relish. So anything that we can do to help out in a small way, I guess we are. And as far as the boxing world goes, it's just to try and communicate with fighters, with managers, with promoters, with the media, and maybe as much as sort of looking forward, because we don't quite know when things are going to get back to some sort of normality. It's looking back and reminiscing and sort of remembering things. I certainly realise I've been doing this for over 25 years, and I was on Matt Macklin and Andy Clark's podcast the other week, and it's like it's just talking about stuff that Danny, you and I have been through, many, many memories. And I think, you never get the chance really to look back and talk about what has been. This is a great opportunity.
You talked about difficulty scheduling at home. It must be reflective of the nightmare scheduling boxing at the moment. We saw yesterday Eddie had rescheduled a couple of the shows that were originally set for May now to July, because the board have extended the suspension of boxing events in the UK at least until the end of May. How is it working for you day to day, organising the boxing side? Because you don't really know when the end's in sight. You've got boxers kind of chomping at the bit, wanting to know when their next fight and the next paycheck's coming from.
I've had loads of fighters contacting me. I spoke to Derek Chisora the other day. Was on the phone. David Hay called me yesterday. There's a lot of people that want to know what's happening, and as I said, we are social butterflies. We love the community, and it's very, very difficult. For fighters, it's exceptionally hard because they don't know when the next paycheck's coming. They don't know when the goal is, where they're fighting towards. This weekend, coming up, we had the big event in Newcastle with Lewis Ritson and Savannah Marshall fighting for a world title for the first time. Suddenly, her dreams on hold, and it's when it's going to happen. And Eddie and I have been working very closely together. Obviously, we've been speaking on a daily basis, and we want to get our teeth into things, but it's hard, and we've got to abide by what's happening out there. Boxing is a small part, and then there's sport, then there's entertainment, then there's news, then there's everything. But the most important thing is people surviving, people getting through this, people's health, and we're hearing difficult stories every day in the news out there. Almost probably everyone knows somebody that's been affected in some way, and it's really, really tough, and it's an unprecedented situation. None of us have ever been through anything like this in our lifetime, certainly of our generation. We look to our parents who maybe were babies or kids during the Second World War, and my dad remembers the ration books in his little grocery store his dad had in Leeds. So it's stories like that are coming through, and I think that it's really hard for the boxing world. Robert Smith's done the right thing. Everything postponed till at least the end of May. Realistically, we've got some dates that have been pushed back to June, and others Eddie announced yesterday to July. But we've got to look at it realistically here. When are we going to get big crowds back to an event? That's the big thing. I think there's a possibility we could have some boxing at some stage in the coming weeks behind closed doors, but it's whether people will want to be back in big crowds, whether people will flock to to buy the tickets that they did before, because obviously businesses are being affected, people's livelihoods, and it's tough times. So there's a lot to sort of put in the pot at the moment, and the most important thing is trying to keep. Boxing, as you know, Danny, is the most unpredictable sport. Things change rapidly on a daily basis anyway. We've never experienced anything like this, but we have experienced other things. So it's just trying to sort of get our heads around a new way of working and realise that we're not the most important people here. The NHS are the people that are saving lives. And, and all of us in boxing have just got to take a slight backward step, I think, and just let it all settle. And we'll go again. There'll be a massive outcry for sport, coming back, and boxing will be, after this hiatus, after whatever it may be, 2, 3, 4, 5 months, whoever knows. But when it's back up, it will be back up and running, and there'll be huge amounts of fights to look forward to. And maybe fights will be made quicker because people will realise that, you only get one shot at boxing and your career is short. And, these fighters are going through this sort of inactivity, almost like an injury period. And for some of the older ones, they've got to realise that they've got to get up and running as soon as they get back out there. So there's a lot that's going to change, I think. I don't think it's going to be going back to normality, as people are saying. I think it's going to be a different way of living and working when we get through this. And, travel is one thing, which is, obviously people are now working from home, and, that industry is going to be interesting, that people are going to, travel as much as they did. And look, we've got to wait and see. But I think the most important thing is that fighters keep training, taking over. Mentally, they keep strong as well as physically. They're good in isolation. They train a lot by themselves anyway. Hopefully that's going to be good. But it's making sure that you do things to keep the structure going, and maybe some good as well, and keep yourself active. I think that's the most important thing for everybody.
One thing I wanted to ask was about the pay-per-view side. I think before the world got turned upside down, there were 3 Sky Sports box office events within 7 weeks scheduled. You add in Dubois Joyce on BT Sport box office, I think it was 4 in 10 weeks. With the delay, that window could become even shorter. You've got, I think, AJ still scheduled at the moment for the end of June. Ian White's been pushed back to the start of July. Frank Warren's put Dubois Joyce tentatively for, well, he wouldn't say tentatively, but for July 11th. That could be 3 in 4 weeks, and that's without Zora Usyk being rescheduled. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that and how tight that window is going to be now.
Just breaking up a little bit, Danny, but I think I got the gist of it. It's. I mean, at the moment, things are being pushed back. As we know, the Usyk and Derek Chisora fight, which we announced only what felt like about 2.5, 3 weeks ago, and amazing that we're all in London for that. And that's been pushed back, and there'll be a date, sorted out at some point. The White Povetkin, Katie Taylor Serrano show, huge fight in Manchester, huge bill. Really looking forward to that. That's been put back at the moment to July the 4th. Anthony Joshua is currently June 20th. That could be put back, possibly to July. And then you've got when's football coming back? If the Premier League is back in May, June behind closed doors, possibly at the beginning. You know, how are Spurs going to be for facility-wise? Are they going to be able to host the Joshua fight? And as I said, by June, July, are people going to be mass gathering again? There's a lot of questions to work out, you know, and also, you know, we don't want to sort of do a pay-per-view event and another pay-per-view event the next week. We've got to be, you know, we've got to be clever with it, and we've got to be thinking about the customers as well, who are obviously, they're devoid of sport at the moment. There's no, you know, real any live sport. There's a lot of debate. There's a lot of, you know, we're trying everything we can for sort of replica programs and podcasts, all the stuff you can do and talk around it. But, you know, we all know that live events make the world go around in the sports world, and that's what we want. And we just don't know. You know, at the moment, all we can do is postpone and think of dates that would work. And we hope that, you know, that the peak, what they're saying, by Easter, maybe the week after, and we hope that the curve is flattened out there, and that, you know, things can return, you know, as quickly as possible. But the most important thing, Danny, in all of this is the NHS and the health of the nation. That's really the only thing that matters. And the fighters that I've talked to, and also the Sky Sports scholars that we've got, you know, who are devastated and gutted about not going to Tokyo, or, you know, they've got to tick over again. My personal scholar is a tennis player who was injured most of last year. He was just finding real form again, getting back into the top 200. And of course, his season, like everybody else's. But that's the thing. Everybody's in the same boat here. So I think, you know, as difficult as it is for people, I think you've just got to accept that there's a much bigger picture here, and that we've just got to take the government guidelines. We've got to keep ourselves as healthy, as active, and as structured as we all can in our own way. And we've got to keep communicating. And hopefully when this does come out, the big fights, you know, will be there. But it's a guessing game, isn't it? There's moving parts every day, and we can only hope that by sort of June, July, we'll have boxing again. And it's only a hope, I think, at the moment.
It is a guessing game. If the dates we have in the books now are to carry on, you know, and come to fruition, it would be 3 pay-per-views in 4 weeks, not just Sky, of course, but BT having one of those. It's a big ask for fans. I'm sure you'd agree. What would you say to them about it? Just an unavoidable consequence of coronavirus pandemic and the bottleneck that's resulted in.
Well, I think, you know, it's 2 ways of looking at it. Yeah, obviously, you know, you don't want to go back to back, as I said, with a load of box office events. Obviously, Frank's got his big fight, the Dubois and Joyce one, to go, and you know, we've got a number, as you know, we've got those 3, the Usyk fight, the Dillian event, and also Joshua and Pulev. So there's a lot there, but, you know, you also have to look at sort of, especially with Joshua at Tottenham. And I think everything is going to be subject to change at the moment. The whole world is changing. So as much as we want to try and keep fight fans, customers, ourselves, everybody in the loop with what's happening, we are playing a guessing game, and Eddie and his excellent matchroom team are working, you know, very, very hard to try and sort of, you know, secure venues when we don't even know if we can go to those venues at that point. So it's really, really hard. It's going to be a tricky one, and I think we'll probably have, you know, more answers in the coming maybe weeks rather than days. You know, my feeling is that we're in a sort of long haul period here, and, you know, everything is that they're saying from a medical point of view is that, you know, normality could be 6 months, 9 months. You know, we don't know. It could be almost like this year is in a way sort of done, but we hope not. We hope that, you know, live sport can start, you know, certainly behind closed doors within weeks, and we just got to fingers crossed that you know, these big events happen. So I think it's very difficult to sort of, you know, talk about that at the minute. I mean, I'm sure if you ask fight fans, they'd really want to see something on television, you know, some live event right now. So, you know, if you can suddenly magic up AJ and Pulev in a stadium with thousands of people, and everybody was safe and secure and 2 meters apart, you know, people would want to watch it, wouldn't they? So it's, you know, people are at home, that they're getting into their routines, but the longer this goes on, the more desperate they're going to be for sport, for that, you know, that amazing event that you want. And you know, we just have to take it as it comes and take each step. But I'd be very surprised if all of those fights happened when we, you know, at the moment of sort of scheduling and hoping they happen. So I think it's just a case of wait and see. But we'd rather have those fights than not have them. But it's just a case of maybe managing expectations and seeing. But obviously, those fighters, if they don't fight, they don't get paid, and they'll want the next fight. And we're all talking about Joshua and Fury and that big fight, but Fury Wilder we know goes back to the autumn. Very interesting that they've put that back to at least October already. And a lot of things are being talked about. Wimbledon, I know, is their meeting, I think maybe today or tomorrow, and if that goes, that might just go completely this year. We know the Euros have gone, the Olympics is now next year. There's going to be a massive sort of backlog at the end of this year and in 2021. I mean, 2021, let's look on the bright side, Dan. 2021 is going to be the biggest forever, isn't it? I mean, it's going to be unbelievable. There's going to be so much happening. We're going to be so occupied by it. Hopefully, let's just get through this, pandemic, which it is a global disaster. It's horrendous what's happening out there, and we just got to all try and sort of get through it together and hope that boxing's not too badly affected in our own little world.
We just need that fast forward button. Start 2021 now.
We do, and it's difficult, and that's the frustrating thing. It really is. As I said, it's like inactivity or an injury time for fighters. I was talking to Luke Campbell the other day, and he's obviously isolating, not only isolating, but his partner's pregnant, and I think that he's got to train, but he can't obviously hopefully not catch the coronavirus because of her. And there's all of that, and he's just like he's like, oh look, I was going to have a world title fight in a couple of weeks. It's not going to happen there. We see what happens. He was very sort of mature about it, but then he's been around a long time. For some of the younger fighters, it may be harder to get their head around it. It might be more difficult, but at the same time, they've got more time in their careers. So for the older ones, it is, especially the ones that are going to the Olympics maybe for the last time, and then they've got to do another year now. But yeah, it's almost like Groundhog Day, isn't it? And you've got to sort of suck it up and battle through. And as I said, let's hope everybody keeps safe and secure and is healthy. And maybe the daily exercise is a good thing. We're all going to come out feeling better and stronger and more adaptable. But we'll see.
I think the daily exercise is mitigated by the daily overeating, at least in my case. But yeah. Hopefully,
well, I think that's the issue, isn't it? The eating, the drinking at home, the sort of the reaching for the biscuits in the cupboard. But it's quite good that Boris has said, look, get out and exercise. He hasn't said how long for, so I think some people are pushing that maybe to 2-3 hours of getting out of the house. But look, I think that part is really good. But you wonder whether in the days to come the lockdown will be more secure and it will be harder to even get out. So that's really hard for people who are in confined spaces. And my kids and what we're all doing the Joe Wicks PE at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I think that's good. It's getting everybody started for the day. It's getting some energy, and it's difficult. The kids need challenging. They need to run around. It's tough, but the most important thing is protecting everybody, protecting the nation.
Now, DAZN UK were heavily rumoured to be launching on May the 2nd with Canelo against Billy Joe Saunders, which actually isn't going to happen now. But how does that affect the dynamic in terms of boxing broadcast in the UK? The fact that they've been forced now to delay their big launch until, I guess, at least September now.
You got to ask them that. I mean, I've been speaking to Joe Markowski, and they're very confident of the business. They're very happy. They're obviously they've got to adjust to this situation, like we do at Sky, and we're on daily conference calls at Sky, just sort of working out how our customers are best served, how our staff are best protected, and those are the same sort of questions they're going to be asking at DAZN or at BT or any other organisation. Obviously, they were ready for their big launch here. The Canelo Saunders fight was almost there, as we know. In the last sort of 24, 48 hours, Billy Joe's got himself into trouble, and that's a very difficult situation for him. And he's in the board's hands now, what they'll do. And the Canelo fight may not happen for him, and the Canelo fight he might just go straight into a Golovkin, match up in the autumn, which I'm sure fight fans will be very excited about. But yeah, that was going to be their launch in the UK, and it would be very interesting to see where they went. But I'm sure they'll put that on hold, just like everybody's doing that with their businesses. They'll be doing everything they can amongst their territories to keep it as normal as possible and try and I guess keep subscribers. It's going to be really hard at at this point, and that's the reason that we've taken at Sky Sports to freeze subscriptions, in pubs and in customers' homes, because that's what we should be doing for our customers who can't get live sport at the moment. And we've got 11 channels to fill, racing and Sky Sports News and all the others. We had a big Anthony Joshua day last Friday. There's a team ready to create and make great content, but also there's a team that's in isolation, and people are getting ill, and people are trying to work from home, and it's difficult, as you know. So it's hard for everyone, but you just got to adapt the best you can, because I don't see the situation changing for a while.
You mentioned Saunders, of course, and while we appreciate him giving us something to talk about during these sparse times for the boxing media, not really the ideal fare that we were looking for. What was your initial reaction when you heard about the controversial video he posted?
Really disappointed, really disgusted and disappointed in him. I like Billy Joe. I've always have. I don't know. You get a soft spot for fighters, Danny. You know that, as you spend a lot of time around them. And I remember Billy when he was in the amateurs, and he was causing a few issues then. And he turned pro with Frank, and there was that big night with DeGale and Gavin and him. And I always thought, actually, even then, I know James went on and achieved a huge amount, and Frankie unfortunately didn't. But I always thought Billy Joe was the one that was going to go on and have the sort of professional talent. He looked like that sort of hardened fighter that was going to have the most success, and he's had a good career, but he's missed out on some of the big nights, and I think part of that has been down to the stupidity of some of his actions. And this isn't the first time. There's been other instances, and it's like he doesn't think. It's like he's got this sort of warped humor, and he just doesn't sort of get situations right. I was really, when I saw it, I was obviously appalled, like everybody, about it, and it's just I don't know what he was thinking. And I got on the phone to Eddie, and I said, well, what is he, and Eddie went, it's the same day that he went and gave the NHS some money and supplies. So you just don't know what's going on in there. And I know he's come out and apologized, but it was a very, very bad thing to do, and disgusting. And it unfortunately gets into the mainstream news. It doesn't do him any favors. It doesn't do the sport any favors, and it's just a real shame, Danny.
What do you think could be the consequences for him? Obviously, the board have suspended his licence as of yesterday. There's no boxing at the moment anyway. His next fight was anticipated to be in the US, which may not be an issue considering it's just his British licence that would be suspended. Do you think there'll be kind of longer term consequences for him?
Possibly. I mean, who knows? I mean, it's just you got to think at the moment, right, of people out there, people who are in real bad health, who are really struggling. And as I said, I think at the beginning of this, that tag, be nice, just think of others at this time. It's like if you can do anything, which is just if you're helping elderly relatives, or you're helping people that can't get their food or something. It's just when you go out in the park in the morning for a walk, for a run, you see people, and people are saying hi. People are much more friendly. It's like
from a distance.
At distance, of course, but people are genuinely being, sort of almost like, even though you can't approach them, they're being very approachable, and I think that's a nice buzz. I think that everybody's in the same boat. This is not affecting one part of the population or one group. It's affecting everybody. So I think you've got to think of others at this time, and but Billy, look, as I said, I like Billy Joe. I've had many great chats with him. I find him endearing at times, but really stupid at other times. And I just don't get it. Is it just that he doesn't think, and he does just, really, it's no consequences, but you've got to have consequences, when you're in the public eye like he is, when you're a role model, because kids look up to world champions, kids look up to fighters, and you sort of, whoever they are, Tyson Fury, has been an incredible story over the last couple of years for being so honest about where he's been and how he sort of fought his way back. And I know he's said some bad and stupid things in the past, but it's almost like he says them and he comes again. And Billy's done that straight away. You know, he's come again and he said, I'm sorry, he's apologized and all of that, the right things to do. But it's like, why in the first place? You know, why is someone not just holding him back and saying, look, you know, think before you do something? As I said, it's not like it's the first time he's got himself into trouble. But I do think there's good in Billy Joe. I think that he's just, you know, done some stupid things, and this was a bad one. This was a terrible one. You know, everyone's got to say that it's horrendous what he did. And look, it's now up to the board. It's not up to us to make a decision whether he fights or not. The board decide here. If they give him a suspension, as you said, there's no boxing for the moment. So will they make it longer? Will they throw the book at him? In which case, you know, it's going to be difficult here. But he was going to fight in America, and but how are they going to take it? I mean, this is boxing. There's always seems to be a place to rebuild, to find a loophole with it. Look at Jarrell Miller. You know, Jarrell Miller done for drugs, and you know, now signed up by Top Rank, and you know, has a whole new sort of, you know, new guys. So there's always seems to be a place for problematic cases, shall we say, and a way of coming back. But he should, you know, I'm glad he's gone and apologised. I'm glad he's going to do some good now, but he really has to look at himself in the mirror and say, right, this is a time where, you know, not just now, not just an apology, but the next, you know, 6 months, he's got to really do good things, and then maybe he'll win the public back, and let's hope he does.
In these sort of situations, do you ever kind of catch some flack from some of the higher ups at Sky? You know, Adam, one of your boxers has said this, we're all over the media, kind of thing.
Yeah, I was on a conference call this morning with all the senior Sky Sports leadership team, and it was a weird one, because we all sort of, you know, offer what's happened to us in the last 24 hours. It's been quite big for boxing, because obviously dates have been rescheduled. You know, we've had the news about Robert Smith's announcement to the end of May, and then the Billy Joe story. But the Billy Joe news gets into Sky News, it gets into the BBC, it gets into wider news, and you can't ignore it. So people see it. You know, it's not just boxing fans. And and I had to, you know, not sort of answer questions about it, because it's you know, it's a fighter that's done it. It's not, you know, it's, as I said, it's something for the board to deal with, or his, you know, his people, his group, his promoter. But you heard Eddie come out and say how disgusted he was with it, and you know, he's his promoter. So and rightfully so. It was what was he thinking? It was disgusting. And I tried to explain on the call this morning that as bad as it was, I think, you know, he does have this humor, this sort of kid-like strange humor, which maybe warped or difficult as it is, maybe it's not an excuse, but I'm trying to look at why he might have done it. And you know, as I said, it's not the first time. There are other instances where, you know, he's found things funny where a lot of the public haven't. And you know, it's difficult. I think he said, you know, look, stand-up comedians and stuff, they don't get, you know, treated like, death threats or whatever. But stand-up comedy is an art form, isn't it? You know, he's a fighter and he's an athlete, and I think that getting involved in these sort of areas is just wrong. And it didn't go down well in obviously in the hierarchy of Sky, and nor should it. But as I said, it doesn't mean, in my opinion, it doesn't mean it's the end of Billy Joe Saunders as a fighter. I mean, he's come straight out. He's trying to do some good. As I said, apparently he helped the NHS out on the same day as well with supplies and stuff. And as I'm saying, you know, if I had any advice, if I get Billy Joe on the phone, I would say to him, look, get out and do some good. You know, think about other people at the moment, what you can do, offer your services, you know, as an athlete to go and help people. I don't know, you know, sign up for the NHS, do something really constructive, and then maybe, you know, when this sort of blows down a bit, and maybe he accepts his punishment from the board, whatever that will be, you know, he'll come out of it and he'll have learned, and I think that's all you can do, and learn and get better. And you know, as I said, there is a really nice part to Billy Joe. So I'm hoping that he will learn from it, and you know, he'll come again.
To end on a more positive note, and you talked about the donating supplies to the NHS. I think Eddie's talked about giving free tickets to NHS staff once all this is over. It seems like a great opportunity for boxing in general to help its own public image while helping the wider community. It seems like a lot of boxers are stepping up to the plate.
Yeah, I think that's great, you know, and it's like I'm sure, you know, I'll be speaking to loads more over the next, you know, 2 or 3 weeks, and I'm sure a lot of them will come up with their own ways of helping. A lot of them with fitness, you know, maybe fitness programs and sort of, you know, getting on Instagram and talking about their memories. I mean, we've got obviously the team at Sky are working, you know, every day on sort of different ways we can sort of get through this and pull people together. But you're right, and what we you know we always have people looking at boxing and saying, you know, the great nights, the amazing sort of attraction of it, but also the bad side with the, you know, the politics and the difficulties and the, you know, the stories that can be tricky. But this is a great opportunity because boxing does a lot of good. Boxing, you know, helps a lot of people. The fitness, not just the getting in the ring or the sort of, you know, unruly kids who've had difficult times on the streets, maybe, who get into gyms and get refocused and rededicated. But I've really noticed in the last couple of years, you know, the amount of white collar boxing, the amount of women getting into the sport, and obviously the exercise that comes with it. It's a great fitness workout. I think a lot of us, you know, do the pads, we do the, you know, shadow boxing. You know, it's great, isn't it? Skipping or running. It's a great form of exercise. And I think one of the key things, going back to the beginning, is mentally and physically keeping in as best shape as you can over the coming weeks and months ahead. And I think, you know, boxing tutorials and sort of, you know, and grassroots things will be fantastic. And I think, yeah, I think a lot of fighters can give back like that. I think they're also very community minded sportsmen and women. You know, I think they're very nice, the boxers. On the whole, they're really good, you know, healthy, dedicated individuals. And you know, this is a real opportunity for them to go out and do good in their neighbourhoods, to do what they can, adhering to government rules. But there's a lot of ways that they can help out. And you know, it'd be really good, wouldn't it, if some of the fighters got a great name out of all this, that they, you know, the boxing can do good. I think it's terrific what Eddie and Frank at Matchroom have done, and giving tickets to the NHS when the shows start up again. And I'm sure we can think of things at Sky and getting the NHS around, you know, around the Sky buildings and seeing how broadcasts work and all of that sort of stuff. There's lots of things that we like to do to help, and we're very lucky, Danny. In many ways, we get great access to our sportsmen and women. You know, we have that advantage over many other sports or industries, that we get really, you know, very difficult to get to a top movie star or a top singer or even a top footballer. But, you know, to get to the likes of Tyson and Anthony and Dillian and all these guys, and, you know, even your Vasily Lomachenko's, your bigger fighters around the world, your Terence Crawford's, it's easy, isn't it? Amir Khan, I see, has done a lot of good already, and that's what we need. We need people really opening up, helping out, and thinking of ideas. Because people are going to be sitting twiddling their thumbs at home. You know, you can't exercise all the time. As you said, you might reach for the food, the biscuits, the whatever. But you know, you're going to want to sort of keep communicative. So let's all think of ideas that we can do to help out and make boxing a stronger and better a sport and community and place when we come back into it. Because we've all got time to work on that.
Yeah, well, Adam, I really appreciate your time. I know, obviously, it's probably a welcome break from being a teacher, but I do appreciate it. And
yeah. I'm dipping in and out, you know. Yeah, I'm not so good at the maths, but I try and help with the English and and the drama.
We've all got to diversify our skills while this is going on, I guess. I really appreciate
Danny, cooking. Really enjoying. I mean, I'm cooking every night. I can't do. I'm useless at DIY. I can't do anything. Useless in the garden, any of that sort of stuff. I like being with the kids, and I like cooking. So that's the one thing that actually, you know, traveling around the world, you don't have a lot of chance to sort of cook. So I'm getting the old recipe books out, trying bits and pieces, and I'm quite enjoying it. So, and I haven't poisoned them yet. So we're keeping going with that.
See a second career in the works here. Jamie Oliver.